Hello, hello, and welcome in to the litterbox report. Quick overview what this segment is going to be like, because this is the first time that we're going to be doing it. So the idea is that I'm going to do this segment at the end of why? We're going to do this segment at the end of each stream, and basically it's going to be an overview of the news from the previous week. Not the previous week. Any news and any nerdy topic that I find interesting between now and the previous stream. So yeah, I'm not going to be doing like deep dive news and so on. It's basically going to be a summary and overview of any news that I find interesting. I'll give you a brief summary of what the news is, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts on it. Why I'm calling it the litterbox report is because a lot of the news and basically the industry of gaming have been very shitty, and there have been a lot of negative news. I feel like way back when, because I started with podcast way back when I started streaming, I feel like either the studios were better or they were just hiding it better. I'm not sure, but I feel like there wasn't like so many negative news. Like studios are doing layoffs. Studios have been accused that they're using generative AI without advertising this to their customers. So yeah, this is why it's the litterbox, because we are going to be diving through the BS of the news. Okay, so let's dive into it with the first news. Let me scooch over. Okay. So the first news that we have is an author's petition requesting publishers to swear off AI. So over 70 authors, including big names like Dennis Lehane and Warren Groff, just dropped an open letter asking publishers to swear off AI in book creation. This thing blew up over 1,000 signatures in the first 24 hours. They're basically saying, hey, don't replace us with bots, don't use AI to write or edit books, and definitely don't use robo narrators for audiobooks. And honestly, they're not wrong to be worried. AI-generated books have been flooding platforms like Amazon's, sometimes even falsely attributed to real authors. It's like the Wild West out there, algorithms slinging words like spaghetti at the wall. The letter even calls out how AI is writing feels cheap and simple because, well, it is. It doesn't have a soul and doesn't have any creation behind it. The authors aren't anti-tech, because everybody understands that this is a technology that will progress. It will be needed in the future. But also doesn't mean that it needs to replace human ingenuity and human creativity. But they're drawing the line, AI can be powerful but shouldn't replace human creativity. And I totally agree with that. There are a lot of use cases and a lot of uses where AI can be positive, but also it shouldn't replace humans. Or it shouldn't be at the cost of like the creations. And we have seen that in a lot of industries, voice acting, artists that do digital art, books, even content creation. Especially, I don't know if you have seen the model that Google released that will be basically creating videos. One day you go on YouTube or some other platform and you're gonna click on a video and you won't be sure if that video was created by an AI or if it was created by an actual human being, which is pretty terrifying, to be honest. I have always been on the opinion progress of technology is good, but also it needs to be regulated by laws, and it needs to be regulated by rules that don't let it go rampant. Unfortunately, even with previous technologies, we have seen that the walls are falling behind that and aren't really able to catch up with the advancement of technology. Next news that we have on the docket is about Resident Evil 9, Resident Evil Requiem. This is a game that was announced at this Game Summerfest. It also brings us news of the Capcom HQ. So Resident Evil Requiem, the vibe was pretty good. Like, the trailer is what we would expect from a Resident Evil game. We're talking full return to Raccoon City, but like a post-apocalyptic haunted dollhouse edition. It's been 30 years since the original Outbreak, and now you are Grace Ashcroft, which is an FBI analyst. We see her in the trailer as well. She has a pretty tragic anime backstory. Mom has been murdered, and now she's back home unraveling a conspiracy. The gameplay, it can be first and third person. I guess why not? Some games go for either one or the other. Capcom said, why not both? They also have something that's called addictive fear, which is exactly what we would expect from them. I am a bit skeptical with Capcom. The game looks amazing on trailers. The thing is, they recently also released a game, which was Monster Hunter Wilds, and the game was extremely unoptimized. It was running like shit on most of the systems. Basically, for you to be able to get it to a playable state on a PC, you would need to have something like 4090, 5080, 4080, something of the high-end cards, which is not great. And I really hope they don't do that with Resident Evil 9 as well. Because Resident Evil is one of the big names in the industry, and it's one of the oldest horror series that is still in production. We would expect the game to come out sometime in 2026. I think the announced date was February 27th. Next, we are back to the generative AI. Developer 11-Bit Studios confirmed they used generative AI for some of the background text and translations in the authors. By translations, it's meant by some of the texts and stuff in the cinematics that's been translated to different languages for the localization of the game in different countries. No, they didn't tell anyone at launch. Steam requires the studios to put a tag, and that is basically advising the users that this game has used generative AI. They somehow missed to place this tag on their game, but players, some Hawkeye players, spotted lines like, "Sure, here is a revised version focusing purely on scientific and astronomical data," which sounds suspiciously like an AI prompt that someone forgot to delete. And even worse, some of the translations in the non-English version had AI artifacts like, sure, here is the translated text into Brazilian Portuguese. Just chilling in the subtitles. The dev says that that was all a placeholder content that accidentally made it into a final build, which, if it accidentally made it into the final build, why was it there in the first place? If you're not going to be using it, just put like placeholder texts like you have in the Photoshop, for example, where you have the what in phrase for placeholders and so on. Why use generative AI stuff at all? It's kind of sus. I think that they tried to use generative AI just so they can save a buck, and they just got caught, and they're trying to weasel their out of it. The studio promises update to replace the AI content with handcrafted assets, but the damage is already done. If you go to the game, there has already been some negative reviews left on the Steam page. Okay, next on the docket is Atomic Heart 2 goes big with space whales, flying cities, and the return of the ballerina twins. Another game that was announced on the Game Summer Fest. Atomic Heart is officially going to be a franchise, so they have announced that there's going to be more games that are going to be created in the Atomic Heart universe. So first off, the game is still a few years out, but the devs are taking their sweet time to make it tighter and more immersive, is what they're saying. They're cooking something big in the retrofuturistic pressure cooker, because the game really looks like something that's in the future, but at the same time it looks very steampunky. The sequel will pick up a few years after the first game, following the chaos of its multiple endings and upcoming DLCs that we're still waiting on to come out. We are still in that deliciously twisted Soviet alternate history, but now the world's expanding more globally. There's going to be more consequences and more existential dread. And yes, the trailer used Queen's Don't Stop Me Now. Not a vibe shift, just a flex. Apparently, that song was released on vinyl in the USSR back in the day. So them having like an alternate SSSR version of like the future kind of ties in with that. Mudfish is copying a surreal art direction in the scene-drenched atmosphere, but dialing it up the emotional range. They have also teased a multiplayer spin-off called The Cube that is going to be in the same universe, and a survival horror game called Ill. So they're building like a whole series and franchise around this title. Atomic Heart 1 looked extremely good. I really want to see what they're gonna cook around this team. Next, we have Monster Hunter Wilds finally has a patch. As I mentioned earlier, Capcom released a game that ran extremely poorly. So the game have sold over 10 million copies, but if you go on their Steam page now, the reviews are overwhelmingly negative. I think like only 15% of their most recent reviews are positive. They have released a new patch. What they have been previously doing is the game will compile the shredders before the game that should actually improve the performance of the game. But what actually was happening was, even during the game will still render some shredders. This patch is long overdue and may finally stop your rig from catching fire whenever you play the game. I have run the benchmark even on a 5080 and I'm still getting like 60, 70 FPS on like the high settings, which is bonkers. And that was on a 1080. I don't even want to know like what kind of FPS I'm gonna get on the 1440p. A lot of PC players have been plagued by stuttering, crashes, and CPU meltdowns. Shader compilation is happening during gameplay, but now Capcom has moved that process to the game's initial launch, where it should be. Because if you play a lot of demanding games, even games like Marvel Rivals, when you start the game for the first time, the shaders get compiled then. And usually you compile the shaders again whenever you do like a big update or a big patch, when they introduce a lot of new shaders. And that usually improves the performance of the game itself. They are saying that they have also optimized VRAM usage for the textures, fixed inaccurate VRAM estimates in the settings menu, added warnings if your GPU driver or OS are outdated, and introduced support for DLSS 4 and FSR 4. Plus mix and match of upscaling and frame generation for the tinkerers out there. The thing is, you should not, if on 1080p, because even on 1080, most of the players were getting like extremely poor performance. Some of them needed to turn on DLSS and upscale it from 480 to 1080 just to have like playable FPS. That shouldn't be the case, especially if you're using a modern graphics card. There were people with like 4060s that were struggling to get to 60 FPS. And that is with DLSS on performance. Capcom this is not their first time of having a game that is being plagued by performance issues. I really hope they fix that with this current patch and that they'll continue to improve on the optimization of the game. And I really hope when Resident Evil comes out, because it will be again on Unreal Engine 5, that the game will run a lot better than how Monster Hunter Wilds is. That's basically my opinion on the situation. Next news is something that's very near and dear to me. There's going to be a new movie called Project Hail Mary that's going to star Ryan Gosling. Before we continue with the news, I'll just play you the trailer. Hello? How the heck did my microphone get muted? Yes. So that's Project Hail Mary. The trailer dropped earlier this week. That is based on Andy Weir's absolute banger of a novel with the same title. If you don't know who Andy Weir is, that's the same person that authored The Martian. There is also a movie based on this book as well. One of the best things about his books is the science behind them. They're all like sci-fi, but the science behind them is very well researched and very well based in theory. The film stars Ryan Gosling as Ryland Grace, which is the protagonist of the book, who is a middle school science teacher who wakes up alone on a spaceship. He wakes up light years away, he doesn't have any memory, and little by little in the book, there are like flashbacks that explain the whole situation. Why is he on the ship and why is he in space, even though like he doesn't have any memory of it? The book is extremely good. I am praying that they don't mess up the movie. The movie will be directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who are behind Into the Spider-Verse and the Lego Movie. And the script is written by Drew Goddard, who also wrote the script for The Martian, so my hopes are up. As far as what I have seen from the trailer, they are keeping pretty close to the novel in terms of the science and the humor that you can see. The launch date for now is announced for March 20th, 2026, and it will come up on IMAX and theaters. Squish, yes. The trailer looks really good. I'm really hyped about this movie, to be honest. So fingers crossed they don't mess it up. The next news that we have, Mecha Break is coming out this week. Actually, it's coming out tomorrow. It's going to be coming out on the 1st of July between 9 and 11 p.m. for Pacific and Central. For East Coast, it's going to be July 2nd at midnight. For the UK folks and Central Europe, it's going to come out on July 2nd, respectively 5 and 6 a.m. So it will be available tomorrow morning when you wake up. For those of you that don't know what Mecha Break is, it's a PvP kind of game with big robots. Think Gundams. I am extremely hyped about the game. I can't wait to play it again. I did try it on beta, and it's pure fun. If you like big robots and you like explosions and shooting, that's your game. Now, the next news. More free updates are coming to Space Marine 2 following the release of its massive body siege mode. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 continues its crusade with another year of free updates on the horizon. Year 2 roadmap includes Saber Interactive and Focus Entertainment have greenlit a second year for free updates and DLC for Space Marine 2. New PvE missions, enemy variants, weapons, and mysterious more are promised thanks to the community's unwavering support. A major September patch will deliver balancing tweaks, fresh content, and finally ship the delayed PvP mode originally slated for version 9.0. The PvP mode teasers are Chaos vs. Chaos will roll to life on a brand new map with players able to seize control of a Hellbrute. For the first time, Chaos classes will get their own armor customizations, options long requested by loyal devotees of the Ruinous Powers. And for the weapons and new classes, version 10.0 arrives with the Savage Power Axe, complete with unique moveset and execution animations. The Tech Marine joins the roster as a full-fledged class in both PvE and PvP, answering fans who have been crafting prototypes via mods. Space Marine 2, for those of you that haven't played it, you definitely should play it. The PvE is extremely fun, especially if you're a fan of the Warhammer 40k universe. I haven't tried the PvP because I'm usually not a big fan of PvP in these kind of games, but if you're a fan of arena style like shooters, beat them up, I think you might find it fun. But Space Marine is extremely worth it even just to play the missions and the PvE content. Next and final on the docket is Newborn and Ben Starr, lead Surgeon Studios' new live-action psychological horror, blurring film and game boundaries. Surgeon Studios founder, I'm probably going to butcher your name, but Abubakar Salim unveils Dead Take. Dead Take is the name of a live-action psychological horror reverse escape room set in a secluded Hollywood Hills mansion. The game blurs boundaries between a movie and a gameplay by having players splice together live-action video clips to solve puzzles and unearth the missing actor's fate. It stars Neil Newborn, mostly known for his role as Astarion in Baldur's Gate 3, and Ben Starr, who voices Clive in Final Fantasy 16 and also Verso in Clair Obscur, whose performances are shown in the flesh rather than hidden behind animated avatars. I'm hyped for this game. Even if like the game is nothing special, I would love to see them in the roles in a live action clips. So even if I don't play it, I'll most probably watch it somewhere on Twitch or YouTube. And this is basically the more interesting news over the last couple of days. I hope you guys enjoy them. I haven't done this kind of segment in a very long time. I promise I will improve in the future when I know like what works and what doesn't work. We'll do another segment, so